call this to order. So we have started the meeting. And the first thing to do is do a roll call. So let's start with Mike.
Adam's here.
All right. And Ray.
Johnson here.
And myself, I am here. Debbie.
Here.
Sandra here.
And Robert, there you are. Great. Next are the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Jessica, can you roll that, please? Jessica,
Yes,
can you roll the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
do you not see it?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Can't
States
see it.
No.
No.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Very low.
There it is. All right. Although it was low, I think we can safely say we did the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll go with that.
Let me check my phone.
Next up, the patrol report delivered by Sam Perez, please. Mr. Perez.
To make sure it works. Does it work?
Yes.
Okay, outstanding. As I'm sure you guys are aware, last month I was not here the full month because of the election. I was out and about and basically in Temecula, ready to respond to incidents that would occur in Riverside County. But when I was here this last month, we had two unfortunate incidents. One of it was an accidental death, where basically we had a worker fall off one of the Rancho water tanks. The reason why I bring it up is because the person was not properly secured. So that probably led to the accidental death. That comes to mind right now because we're approaching Christmas. And like myself, I like to hang up my own decorations. So basically, please take extra precautions to make sure that no one gets hurt during this season.
Yes.
The second incident was we had somebody basically pull into a driveway, enter a vehicle, and take two cell phones from a worker, one of our landscapers up on the hill. The worker saw what the guy did, basically, going to his vehicle. He confirmed the suspect, and basically they got into an altercation, and the suspect left the scene. Luckily, we were able to identify who the suspect is. He's a former resident of Duluth, but this week I have not seen him up on the hill or anything. We'll be posting the poster on the mailboxes pretty soon, by tomorrow. That's the individual right there, Christopher Dyke. Like I said, the former resident of Duluth. He was driving a approximate 2002 Subaru Gray. So if you come across an individual, don't contact them. Just contact us, and we'll take action against him if we locate him. So we're still investigating it, and we're still trying to locate him. So that's not going to go away in terms of off our shelf and everything. In terms of trends that are occurring right now in the district, the last 2 months, we have had 2 indoor marijuana grows raided on the hill in Duluth, basically 1 a month. It's an issue because our sheriff is pushing asset forfeiture. So basically, if you're cultivating marijuana in your house and we investigate it, we're going to try to take your house and any property that's associated with the crime. So your vehicles, your money, that's what we're looking at right now in terms of trends. Like I said, the last 2 months, 1 a month. So hopefully, if you're considering trying to cultivate marijuana in your residence, don't.
Darn.
And that's basically it. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, I'm very sorry to hear about the accidental death of the worker on the Rancho water tank, and just wish his family well, and hope they can make through this sad time. That's really very sad.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Officer Perez.
Okay.
And have a very nice Thanksgiving.
Hey, you too, ma'am.
Okay, bye now. All right, we will move on to public comments. Jessica, do you know if anybody from the public is here and if they need to address the board at this point?
No, we do not have anyone.
Okay, all right, then we will dispense with that. The information only is financial statements and statements of investment policy. If you've had a chance to look that over, if anybody has any questions, let me know. Okay. We will go on to the next item, consent calendar. At this point, that's the minutes of the October 21 board meeting, the general fund claims for October, and the share of special tax claims for October, as well as purchase order numbers 2020-204. Anybody have any questions regarding that, or anything they want to take up with the board?
Move approval.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Adams, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Byers, aye.
Sandry, aye.
Robert's eye.
Thank you. Item F is the road construction projects on Sandia Creek and Via Vaquero, the FEMA projects we have had going. And Dave, please update us on that, please.
All right, thank you. Our consultant, Ultra Systems, has finalized their permit packages. And we're gonna be working with Jim to set up an account so that he can electronically sign them. And so those are all in the process right now. We are reviewing a final U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit before we give it to Jim, just to make sure everything is finalized. Everything else has been approved. So that's going well. So we'll get that turned in. Again, when that turns in, typically it should take 3 to 4 months, but in this condition, it's going to take 4, 5, 6 months. So that still on track for like spring is where we're guessing, worst case scenario. So just be expecting that. Let's see. So that's Sandy Creek and Via Vaqueros.
Mhm.
Any questions on that project from anybody?
No, not other than it's slow as molasses these days.
It is. It is.
We do have to dot the i's and cross the t's and all that.
All that, because if you don't do it now, it'll
Yeah.
take an extra month down on the review process.
Right, right. Okay.
Okay.
The next item is the slurry seal project, basically throughout Duluth. So, and if you could update us on that as well, Dave.
I will. The contractor finished slurry sealing all the streets late Tuesday. And so that's gone really well. Now we're going to go through a 7 to 10 day waiting period for the slurry seal to basically firm up 100%. You can't put paint on it in that time frame like asphalt, or it'll bleed into it. So you have to wait that 7 day period. Then you'll start seeing the painting crew come out there. and they'll start painting it. As soon as we get a schedule on that, we'll let everybody know about it and when it's going to be and start. So we haven't gotten the schedule yet from the contractor, but it'll be 7 to 10 days out.
Okay,
Everything's going well on that.
all right. Does anybody have any questions regarding the slurry progress?
I have a couple comments.
Okay,
It seems like the weather's pretty cold, what they were doing on my streets, and it's tracking, and they put extra cement in it to cure it because it was so cold, so now it's all white. It just looks like the rest of the road in less than 30 days. What do you, I mean, you've done this for a long time, Dave. What do you think about the overall quality of the job? I mean, I've been out here for 15 years, and I know when we crack and slurry what it looks like. And this doesn't look like what I've seen in the past. Is there a reason?
Well, what they do is for the specifications, the temperature has to be 50 degrees or above. And so our inspector is waiting out there, making them wait until it turns 50 and it's rising is what they call it, 50 and rising. That means you don't go out there at nighttime when it just hit 50 and it's going to get colder. You can do it. You do it in the morning. He was out there monitoring the coldness. A lot of times they'll throw sand on a project to help it cure a little bit and help it when cars drive on it. There's not as much tracking. Part of his job after it's all done, we'll make sure he goes out and he cleans up any tracking that's out there. So it's not that's part of the process. And so he's doing everything per the book, as we talked about in our engineering committee, that the temperature would typically work in this month, but it would have to be watched. And we covered that in our engineering committee, and the 50 degrees is an accepted statewide temperature.
For how long?
Well, it's got to be 50 degrees and go up. So that's why they're out there in the morning. So it hits 50 degrees in the morning, we know it's going to keep going up. It's not going to drop. And that's what making.
I get it. It doesn't, that's, your job. I just looked into it and I didn't find that to be the case. 55 degrees and up for a minimum 24-hour period. And they didn't put any sand on Via Santa Rosa. So that's not why it's turning gray.
But it's going to turn gray anyway. It's part of the, you put brand new concrete or asphalt out there, it does turn gray in a rather short period of time, even so.
And eventually, yeah, not in 2 weeks, but that's okay. I was just making a comment. I wasn't trying to, that may be different in some other sections of the district.
Well, I can show you the code that says 50 degrees if you want to see it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions today on this issue? Okay, thank you. The next item is the Buena Vista reconstruction project. And Dave, you're up again.
Yes, on the Buena Vista, our consultant Rincon, they're right now done a bunch of their preliminary work is done. And what they're doing is they're setting up pre-application meetings with all the agencies. And they're doing that because of the pandemic going on and changes down there. What they're doing is going to set up individual meetings with each one, give them a kind of a draft and go over each project to make sure they're on board, and anything that they may want to see different or not, they will then bring that up at that meeting. But they're pretty confident because they've done this on several projects in the last 3 months. And he says these pre-application meetings really help a lot. It gets the other team on board. And so they're doing the extra step just to make sure this process goes smoothly. And they're again saying that by springtime, they should have all the permits on that. And then at that time, when we have all our permits, then Jim and I and the engineering committee will discuss bringing it back to the board to see if the board wants to construct the project, because we'll have all our permits in place. And then if you guys agree to that, we'll go out to bid. And then you guys have a second chance when the bids come in. to say if you want to accept the low bid or not. So you have a couple chances that'll be coming back to you on this. So that's kind of the big picture on that.
Okay. And any questions and or comments on this project? Again, we really expected it to last this long because we're starting over again with getting all the application and the permits in. So, you know, that was to be expected. It was really the other ones that just kind of COVID hit it hard.
It did. It did. It hit the consultant hard. It hit all the agencies hard.
Yeah, it sure did. Okay, thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate all your expertise and professionalism. It's great to having you there in charge of all our projects. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We move on to traffic safety, and that would be you, Dave. I'm sorry, Steve.
All right, we look alike.
Yeah, totally. All right, thanks, Steve.
Jessica's got a presentation for us here.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. So as Dave indicated, we're just finishing up the Slurry project. We spent much of the last 2 weeks monitoring the traffic control by the contractor and working with that. We had a CMS sign put up to let people watch their speeds. So we had it out on North Sandia Creek, De Anza, North El Prado. We had that new idea that we talked about, and we ordered reflective tape for all the guardrails within the community, and we received that shipment this morning. So that'll be going up next week. We've been putting together the missing signs that keep disappearing out on the detour. And so we had 3 signs out there. So the last few signs we've been putting up, we're putting them on permanent post so that they can't just be lifted up with the barricade and removed. So we'll see how that works out. We had a excitement on El Calamar during the month. They had a broken water pipe. That's the flooding that was coming down the hill. The pavement, as you can see, between the gentleman and the pickup truck is uplifting over there. The paving truck happened to be going on that road at that time, and they fell into the sinkhole. Had to be towed out, but they were towed out successfully. The staff closed the road and kept it closed overnight so repairs could be made in the daytime the next day. The water company fixed the pipe and fixed the pavement the very next day. And then final pavement and restriping, and the road was reopened. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Well, that was good work. Glad to hear that they were able to reopen very quickly. So that was awesome. What caused the pipe to break? Just simply that massive amount of rain we had, or what?
I don't know whether it's just an old pipe under the ground that cracked or if it was something else, you know, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just for everyone's information, the water district is going to put a replacement line out in that street, a 24-inch, which I think is like twice the size of the one that's out there, because that line is getting old out there. And so what you do is you get in the seals where the pipes join together, sometimes they get a small leak in them, and then it basically takes all the dirt out. And then when a heavy truck goes by it, then the whole water, I mean, the tires will just crush the empty space underneath it. So they'll be back out in probably springtime and be digging up that road to put a whole new line in there. So that'll be a project in the future.
Good. Well, I'm glad that at least it's been taken care of and that traffic is able to go through. So that's great. All right. Does anybody have any other questions regarding Steve's presentation? All right, then we will move on to the purchasing policy consideration and adoption of the purchasing policy for the district.
Marianne,
Yes.
we still have the maintenance report.
I don't.
Oh, it's not on here.
It's
Okay,
not- But
Well,
let's,
we
let's go
can
ahead,
do it anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. do it anyway. So,
Typo.
okay. So we completed a contract to get a lot of the overhead trees done and a lot of the growth like you see in the streets like this taken. That was all completed in the last month.
Mhm.
This is a good picture. If you can look ahead of the tractor here, you can see the growth that's all the way out on both sides of the road, 1 to 2 feet into the street and 3 to 4 feet high in some places. That was before we graded it. This is what it looks like after we're done grading it. It just drags all that weeds and everything down to the dirt. And we got a nice 2-3 foot, clear shoulder there, free of weeds and that. So we're continuing to do that on the streets as we can now that the weather's cooled down, and we'll start mowing some of those shoulders in the future. As you know, we inspected 677 drains, and we removed all the growth and we removed all the silt from them that we could prior to the end of October, before we got our first rain the first week of November. And the other thing that we had done is we purchased sandbags in advance, and we went out and proactively reinforced several of these drains that are normally problematic to make sure that they didn't have any further damage or erosion or anything like that. And the guys went back and checked it after the rain was done and said they all worked great. So
That's great.
and that's our report.
Great. Sounds like we're getting good work completed. I'm really glad about all the trees and weeds that we've been able to grade and cut back, as well as all the maintenance you've done with the pipes, etc. Sorry. Does anybody have any questions to Steve? Okay, thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Then we will move on to the purchasing policy consideration, adoption of the purchasing policy for the district. And I believe this is one that Jim has been working on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
You have in your packet a 29-page official document, which we've been working on for probably 6 to 9 months. This came about as a result of the last audit. There seems to be, in the world of accounting and auditing, new requirements coming into place which require agencies, businesses, whatever, to actually have a written purchasing and contracting policy. Of course, over the years, we've been operating under state law, public contracting laws. This is just a little bit more specific as to precisely how you contract and purchase goods and services. In addition, it came to light in the springtime with our audit or our reimbursement request from FEMA that they are also requiring such a document. So this will bring us current with our FEMA reimbursement requests. This document came from Ward's firm, and I worked on it with one of their experts to make it an appropriate draft for our organization. The finance committee has reviewed it, I believe yesterday was the third time, and made changes which have been incorporated. And there was one change to page 10, which I sent out to you this afternoon. It's basically just to merge language on page 4 with language on page 10. We kind of found in the meeting yesterday that when you get to page 10, you have to refer back to page 4. And what Ward has suggested today, that he could do a little bit better job than that proposed that you have in your hands that I sent to you by email. And they would like to just merge those into page 10 so that it's clear. You generally, when you get to page 10, you don't think that you have to go backwards. Anyway, he thinks we should incorporate the languages all on page 10 and suggests that he could do that for us. If you adopt the document, he can make that change. Other than that, the Finance Committee perhaps would like to make comments since they have worked on it with us for these months.
Thanks, Jim. I think, we had looked this over and have spent a considerable amount of time reviewing it. I want to emphasize that this is very important for us to get done because the auditors will be completing their work. And I think this is as a policy for the completion of the audit. So I want to emphasize that. You also mentioned the issue with FEMA, and I think that's another reason for us to move forward. I think as the document stands, with the change that you're suggesting, we and Debbie can speak for herself about this. We thought this was a good document, a good policy, and hope that the board will take it up and approve it. That's my comments.
All right, Debbie, did you want to add to that?
Really not much other than, a great deal of work went into this, as you all can see here. And pretty much concurred with what Robert just said right now, but really a lot of detailed information here. Well done.
Yeah, I was reading through it and at a certain point I was like, okay. That's a lot of detail, yes.
Yeah, but the auditors love it.
Yes, no, I think it is high time that we formalize our purchasing policies and our contract policies. So I'm very happy that you guys did this work. At this point, does anybody else have any questions or comments to adopting this purchasing policy?
We'd like to move that we adopt it.
Okay, can I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, starting with Ray?
Johnson, aye.
I'm sorry?
Johnson, aye.
Aye, Johnson, aye, thank you. And Mike?
Adams, aye.
Myers, aye. Robert?
Sandra, aye.
And Debbie?
Robert's eye.
Robert's aye. And Debbie also aye, right? Okay. That has been adopted. Thank you very much for some very intensive and great work there. Next.
Marion, could I ask a question? I'm probably not up to speed on all the goings on in the district, but could I ask what the name change with Debbie is? Isn't it Arnolino, yeah, what happened? Did you get something happen?
No, I just decided to drop Ardolino and keep my husband's last name.
Oh.
Oh, that was your name.
Yes.
Oh, huh.
Yes. I said it was about time after 20 some odd years.
Yeah, he passed the test, did he?
Yeah, after 27, almost 28 years.
Right. Okay, fine, I'll take it. That's right. Okay, well, good. So we will move along and we will discuss and consider an adoption of updated district bylaws. And Ward, I believe you will take us through the proposed bylaws that we have been working on.
That's correct. Jim had given this assignment to me several months back, saying that he'd been, meaning to get to this for almost several years now, I guess. But in an effort to just update the bylaws, asked me to go ahead and take a look at it. I assigned it to one of our associates here who works a lot with other districts in the cities and is familiar with, the current state of bylaws around other public agencies here in California. And so we're proposing these bylaws and changes tonight. Did you want me to just kind of go through and highlight the major changes to the bylaws?
Yeah, that would be good.
So you can see, I'll just go through in order. The first change is there's, and I won't do every single little T or dotted I thing, but say 2.5, we're adding in a mission statement. Under 4.2, we've consolidated the governance of the board. Before there was several sections in there that we took out because it's just repetitive of the government code. So we just basically said, refer to the government code in 4.2.
I'm having a hard time following that. Can you just mention the page number that we were talking about if you're following that? Because
I was going by sections, but
yeah, I'm sorry.
2.5 is on page 2.
Okay.
4.2 is also on page 2. We've added on 4.3, we've added a sentence there that says, in addition, the board may declare a vacancy as determined by state law, because there's a number of different ways a vacancy can occur. It's not just by resignation. There are other ways that vacancies can occur. And we found a whole list of them in Government Code 1770. So we decided to just, flag that here at 4.3 so that the board could, if one of a statutory type of vacancy occurs, like somebody moves out of state or passes away or something, then the board could certainly take action. Stop me if you have any questions. We've added in this 5.1, also on page 2, that the meetings are going to be governed by the Brown Act. Let's see. A few of these sections on the next page, page 3, special meetings, non-emergency, and then there's special meeting and emergency. We wanted to clarify that there's 2 different types of special meetings that the board can call. So we added in those paragraphs in there. There was one paragraph on special meetings before, but we just felt like some more detail was needed. On 5.7, at the very bottom of page 3 and going into page 4, we added a sentence that should the president determine in his or her independent judgment that the meeting, there's a conduct of the meeting that cannot be brought into order, then she or he can go ahead and proceed to adjourn the meeting. That's a new sentence. 6.1, that is, this sentence here has been changed. The board may appoint 1 or more advisory committees to advise the board on the district's finance policies, programs, and operations. Before that sentence allowed the president to do it. We've gone back and looked at the state law and feel that it should be at least approved by the board. It can be certainly suggested by the president, but the board should be the one doing the final approval of. Moving forward to 6.4, there was if you compare this with the old bylaws, there was a paragraph in here at the old 6.4, which talked about consultants. And the paragraph basically said that the committees could hire a consultant to come in and serve on the committee. That would need to actually have board approval to do something like that. So we decided to remove that consultants paragraph because we felt like that the state law didn't allow just committees to unilaterally hire consultants to come in on behalf of the district.
Right.
Moving ahead, we've just done some tweaking to some of these. Now, I guess really the last thing to point out is that we've added in a code of ethics, that's Article 8. Let me see where that starts.
Page 6.
On page
Yeah.
6, members of the governing board talks about their position vis-a-vis employees and the general manager. That's Article 9. And then finally, a censure policy, Article 10. These are sections which are common in other public agencies throughout the state. At least for the last 20 years or so, I'd say I've been seeing them more and more in bylaws, especially the code of ethics, was probably jump-started almost 15 to 20 years ago with a water district out of Sacramento that was playing under the radar, and Sacramento Bee did a series of articles about how some of these districts are operating out in the Wild West. And then after that, the legislature got a hold of these series of articles from the Sacramento Bee and adopted AB 1234. You're probably familiar with that because that causes the board members nowadays every other year to have to do special training. And so ever since that time period and the enactment of those laws, we've been seeing these, more and more districts going to a code of ethics in their bylaws. So if there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
They look very reasonable. I like how we've kind of gone into a lot of specifics regarding the appointments, ad hoc committees and consultants, that need to be approved by the general board, not just committees. The ethics is important. Governing of the board. I think this is good work that you've done, and I'd like to move approval. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this?
Yeah, I do. I too think it's a good document, but I'm generally more familiar with receiving a red line version when there are changes to a document like this. So I can assess the way it exists and the way you're modifying it. I mean, I think we should approve this. I don't have a problem with it, but I think in the future, if there are going to be changes like that, we should see a red line version and have the opportunity to assess both what was and what we're suggesting at the same time.
My comment is, I think that we should have seen it this time, because what are the chances we're going to be modifying the bylaws in the future? They haven't been modified in years. So if you think that there could have been a better way, I felt the same way reading it. I even contacted Ward today to see he'll verify, because there's no way for anybody to know that didn't see the other version without reading this. And I did find some red flags in it that I wasn't happy with, but I waited for Ward to explain some things. And there are some things that are put in here that it may or may not need more discussion. But I would have, if you say, yeah, well, in the future, when's that going to be? 2025? I mean, you know, they've been working on something for so many years and so many months. And then to spring it out of nowhere, even though finance committee might have looked at it, the board might have looked at it, maybe some other districts have some reason to have certain wording that we may or may not want to adopt. You know, I tend to agree with you, Robert, about as far as we like to move along and just approve things, but we all know that, you know, we all have reservations, and we're just going along to get along. We're not really putting anybody that the kind of money that we're spending for, if you look at for attorney's fees and for office help and for everybody else that works for the district, is we should be getting, you know, the few things that we actually get to look at and can make some kind of decision on. We should at least have enough information to make a good comment, not just get it the night before, but you know, on Friday night when I don't have a computer at home, so I get it on Monday. And you know, I don't think it's I think it could be done a little bit differently. And I don't know if it's because COVID and nobody's in the office and everything's spread out, but still we're talking about reinventing the entire bylaws for the district. And we shouldn't take that lightly, like anything else that we should do. So I don't see, you know, this isn't going to hold up FEMA money or the audit, right? So we could maybe get another look at this, and maybe I'd like to see the 17 reasons for a person can't be on the board. That's not, you know, instead of just saying in addition, we may declare a vacancy as determined by state law. And you said you found 17 reasons. Well, what are the 17 reasons? I mean, I'd be curious to read them. So, you know, I'm just saying, do we have to adopt this tonight, or can we do it next meeting? Is there some kind of a rush? I'm just wondering. Do you have any comment on that, Ward or Jim? Or
I don't have any, I don't see a rush, so I'm going to defer to the president.
Okay, so there is no rush. I do think there is a need for the bylaws to be updated, because the last round of them happened so long ago that they were no longer up to date according to the California code. So some of that was brought into line. It also looked to me like the way it was described to me was that anytime we have discrepancies between our bylaws and the California code, then the California code prevails. And that's always been so. It seemed to me with the former code, if the California code, the former bylaws that we've had, or the old bylaws, if the California code is always to prevail, then it was kind of nice to know exactly what that was. So that is what we've kind of tried to update with these bylaws, to make it more readily apparent what the California code is. And so that was a big part of why we wanted the update to happen. You know, that's what we've been trying to do. Does anybody else? Does anybody?
I agree that we need to have the bylaws updated. There's no argument there. It's just that the point that Robert brought up, I'm glad he brought it up, because I don't want to be the only one that brings up things that may or may not meet with board approval. But there's no argument about updating the bylaws. I think I'd like to have a little bit more information. I'd like a red line version of this, and we can just do it next month. I don't see what we haven't. What's one more meeting to make it clear, a little bit more clear for the people on the board to have a look at it.
Right. Does anybody else have any comments or questions regarding the bylaws or the proposed bylaws? Doesn't sound like it. I think at this point, your point is taken, Mike. I think we should vote on whether we should approve it at this point or whether we should wait for the red line version. So I'm not quite sure how we would put the wording down on that. But I would move, go ahead.
I would, the way I guess you would do that is I think you made a motion, although it wasn't seconded, that you could table that and till the next meeting. I guess that might be a way to do that.
Okay, so in order to table it, do we need to take a vote to table it?
Yes.
Okay, then,
Now, let me make a comment first, since I raised this issue and
right.
as I said earlier, I think this is a good set of bylaws. I don't have a problem with going forward with it, but I would have liked to have seen, as I read through it and read through it carefully, the changes that were made. That was my only point.
Okay. Well, it's a fairly important document, so I'd like to hear the rest of the board weigh in on that. Starting, I think I've made my views clear, but I would like to hear from Ray. What do you think about the proposed bylaws? Do you have any comments or questions on it?
No, not really.
Okay. Any place where you would like to see more clarifications or improvements?
No,
Nope. Okay. Mike has spoken, I've spoken, Robert has spoken. Debbie, do you have any questions or comments? To the
Just some
proposed bylaws?
comments. Just some comments. I am accustomed to a red line document. However, though, this is pretty in-depth. And from my perspective, it covers what I am accustomed to seeing in the past in terms of bylaws. So for me at this particular time, I have no issue with it in terms of how we see it today. But I know for some folks in the past, I know I've seen red line before we moved forward, but I really feel this is a really good document. A lot of good detail in there.
Okay. So, Ward, do you have any recommendations for the board at this point?
Well, maybe you could take a vote on whether you want to table the motion, and if the vote passes, then it would be tabled until next meeting, and we could distribute a red line for the agenda at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to table the bylaws approval until we see a red line version in the next meeting.
Okay, in a second. I don't hear a second. Do we have a second for the? All right, then we don't have a second for this. So the motion doesn't carry. We need a
Doesn't surprise me.
I would fall back to your first motion then, and I think you had a motion and a second already on the table, and you'd proceed with that.
Okay, if we didn't already have a motion, let's have a motion to approve the proposed bylaws. Did we have a motion for that? I would move approval of the proposed bylaws. Can we have a second on that?
Robert, second.
Okay, So all in favor of approving the proposed bylaws, please indicate so, starting with Ray,
Johnson, aye.
Mike,
No,
okay? I vote yes. Robert,
Al Sandri, aye.
okay, Debbie.
Robert's eye.
All right, thank you very much. I guess at this point, the district bylaws have been approved. Thank you, everybody. That moves us to the committee reports. Starting with the engineering committee report, Mike?
okay. We met on Tuesday, November 10th. Usual people were there. We talked about, we approved the minutes. We talked about the Sandia Creek via Vaquero reconstruction, which David Hunt talked about tonight. We talked about the schedule for the Slurry Seal project, which David Hunt reported on tonight. Buena Vista reconstruction project, and we talked about the situation out there. And of course, we talked about how they fixed the big hole in when the truck fell in one day. And then we had field cool report. We had the same slideshow we saw today. And then we had a report from Jim Emmons on his meeting that he had with the Grove Homeowners Association, where he about got his head bit off, as I think he called it, or got his head handed to him. And the people are out there are not happy with obviously the delay, and obviously the people that are on the detour don't like that. So I don't know the particulars of what went on, but I think that we need to at some point on some way or shape, make a note in the minutes that the people out in the Grove have expressed their opinion as to the situation, and it wasn't favorable. Jim, did you want to say anything tonight?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. They are unhappy, and I delivered the bad news that this had been pushed back to spring. They were, I think, expecting to hear that this was going to be finished in the fall, which we're in the fall. And they've like Sandia Creek reopened as soon as possible. So I think everyone has noted it. And so, yeah, I think, now it'll be in these minutes too.
And Ray, do you have anything to add to the meeting regarding our engineering meeting we had last week?
No. Excuse me.
Okay. That's about it. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we might be looking into? Okay. All right, thank you. Concludes my report.
Thank you, Mike. All right, then that moves us along to the finance committee report. Robert?
Thank you. We met yesterday. And, as you've already heard, we reviewed the purchase policy and made some suggestions at that time, which you've also heard about. So I think that was probably the majority of what we did yesterday. In addition to that, we got a report on the auditor. And I think the auditor will be making their presentation to us in January. So they will be getting a report out. It could be in December, but I've suggested that we probably will have a lighter meeting in January, and we'll give them more time to make a more thorough report. In addition, we suggested that they get their report out to us in advance, so that we all have a chance to take a look at it, and they can make the presentation in January. As of obviously not quite finished yet, but there's no apparent problems. They seem to be moving along very nicely, and I don't see any delay in their reporting to us. Do you have any other issues, Teresa, with the auditors? Any other comments about that?
No, I think you covered all the highlights there.
So you've seen also the other thing is you've seen the interest rate is continuing to drop. It's less than 1%. I think it's right around 0.5% now. So that's just the way it is. There's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
That's the report.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Robert. That's glad you asked the auditor to send in the report in advance, so we'll have a chance to look it over a little bit more in depth. So that's good work. Moving on to the legislative report, which that's Jim and I. COVID is still hanging over this whole project right now because we really can't meet with any of the legislators. We're still trying to put together a meeting with our new senator and see if we can put together a legislative proposal to get a gas tax through the legislature, and that may or may not work, but it'll at least give us more ammunition when we turn around and deal with the county. So hard working with that. Nobody's in the office. It's everybody, is working remotely. So hopefully now that we're hearing vaccinations are on their way, we can kind of get back to in-person meetings and move forward with this. Jim, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that pretty well covers it.
Okay.
Since you raised the issue about vaccination and all, just the comment. So I think it'll be at least 6 months before the vaccine gets down to any portion of the population that isn't at risk or is emergency services type people. I think also that it'd be at least a year before we're back to normal. So we may be doing Zoom meetings for a long time to come. The only other thing I would mention is that, and I've been following this carefully, we hear about the death rate, and it's less than 1%. And the death rate is used as a measurement because it's easily defined. You're either alive or you're dead. The real issue with this is that people that have this, even mild examples of the disease, continue to have symptoms long after. And in one study I read, it's 30% of people that contract this continue to have problems for anywhere 6 weeks to 6 months or longer. The other thing I think it's important to realize is that with the pandemic in 1918, people that had the pandemic, had the flu back then, that got over it, lived a long life, many of those people developed Parkinson's disease later in life. And there was an association between having the flu, surviving, and developing Parkinson's disease later. So these coronaviruses are not the usual thing. And there are a lot of examples of viruses that reside in the body after you've had the infection, herpes, shingles, and there are others as well.
Polio.
So polio. So I think this is a something that we shouldn't be messing around with and should really take seriously, and you can all avoid getting an infection and get the vaccine in the not too distant future. Just some comments about it.
No, definitely, and it comes from a very informed source. So thank you for that, Robert. And I think we're all trying to be careful. I kind of consider myself on the cusp of being a senior citizen. So I'm definitely not taking it on the chin for all those young ones. I'm planning on keeping myself safe. So thank you for the heads up on that. Appreciate it. Next one up is the general manager report, and that is you, Jim.
We just received a notice from LAFCO that they're going to, within the next 6 to 8 months, be conducting what they call an MSRP, and that's a municipal service review. This is something that was added to the responsibility of LAFCO's about 20 years ago, and they're supposed to go out to all the cities and the special districts in their county, look at what they're doing, looking at how they do it, and recommending changes, and with a particular eye toward consolidations. So we've been selected for that process in 2021. And due to the situation, they're already saying in their letter that don't expect to see us soon because they're not set up for it and COVID and all that. But we are on the list. So probably in the spring, we're going to have to provide a lot of information about what we do and how we do it to them, written kind of information. And at some point they'll be out probably attending a board meeting, committee meetings, that kind of thing. So anyway, this is just the first notice. I don't believe they've done it in the last 10 years here, even though they're supposed to do it every 5. It's a pretty extensive process and they don't have the funding to do it that often. So the last time the report I saw is the only thing that came out of it was they suggested we consider merging with Tanaha, and the report got filed and that was the end of it. So anyway, another project looming ahead. So I'll keep you informed when I hear more from them.
Would you enlighten the board on what your feelings were about consolidating with Tanaha? Because I found that was an interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's a real structural problem there that I don't know why they didn't check that out. The methods of assessing fees that provide all the revenue for our district are also assessed there, but at Tanaha, but they're totally different. And so that kind of a proposal wouldn't really get off the ground because they'd have to restructure everything. And there's all the laws, Prop 13, 218, all kinds of other laws that would really preclude these benefit assessments and all are really old. And as we know, we can't raise them, but they remain in place. So there's really no way I know of unlocking those and redoing them. So anyway, I don't know. I wasn't there, and I just read it, and so I don't know what they were thinking about. But I suspect, like a lot of these mandated studies, they were kind of just looking for a recommendation or something. I don't know, So I have a feeling that is not going to be on the plate this time.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, I think we will finish up with Ward and legal counsel matters. Do you have anything to enlighten us with, Ward?
I just wanted to briefly share that I believe it was a couple months ago, I was talking to you about a case called Pico Neighborhood Association versus City of Santa Monica. I don't know if you remember that, but it was about voting rights. And as you probably have heard, there's a group of people that go around to these different cities and districts trying to get them to change from an at-large voting to by districts. And
yes.
that case established that there's a higher bar to being successful at that type of activity, which gave a lot of cities and districts, relief from, lawsuits of this type. Well, in the meantime, since I first talked to you about that case, the California Supreme Court has decided to hear that case in person. And so in the meantime, they've depublished that previous opinion that I had talked to you about, which means we can't rely on that opinion now. We're going to have to wait on the Supreme Court arguments to be made, the Supreme Court decision to come out. So that could take up to 1 or 2 years. So I'll report back to you when I hear the results of that case. That's all I've got, President Byers.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think at this point, this concludes the meeting. So I'd like to adjourn right now. And we'll see you all next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to all.
Happy
Same to you.
Thanksgiving.